In today's video, I am going to share with you what exactly I'm doing in Dubai and how I got here and how I feel living here. As you know, I am from Milford, Connecticut, USA, and I've been living abroad for 14 years. Hi, my name is Lauren O'Connell, and I am the beauty editor at Cosmopolitan Middle East magazine. I'm also a blogger. I have a website called planetlauren.com, and on my website, I write about all things related to spirituality, women's wellness, beauty, and skincare. You know I'm big on skincare. So getting into my story about moving abroad, honestly, it starts from a very young age. And when I was born, growing up in Milford, Connecticut, I just had this unmistakable, constant feeling that I was born in the wrong place. It was a beautiful place to grow up in. Milford is fantastic. It's close to New York City, it's close to Boston, it's on the beach, has nice little schools, and it's a beautiful environment, but it just didn't feel like home. And I remember as a kid being at the public library with my mom and having her Xerox, remember that word Xerox? I used to have her Xerox these books for me, these kids' books on how to speak other languages. I specifically remember a book on Cantonese that I constantly read, and I was trying to teach myself all these different words in Cantonese. I also had books on French, Italian, Spanish, and a whole bunch more. Lots of these photocopied, binded books. So I just always felt like this. And when I was a senior in high school, I went on a senior class trip. We went to Italy and Greece. And when I was in Milan, I was on this rickety old bus, and I remember looking out the window and making a promise to myself that one day I would live abroad. And I did. I actually was we're all manifestors, but I was a master manifester back then, and I didn't even know it. In college, in my university, I met my husband. We're both mechanical engineers, and we dated all throughout college. And then after school, he had gotten a master's in fire protection engineering as well. And we moved to Chicago. Now, my husband is from Minnesota, and I'm from Connecticut. So moving to Chicago was sort of a really fun new thing for the both of us. We married quite young. I got married at 23. And so we were sort of just starting our adult life together in this brand new city. But what happened was, for his job, he ended up getting put into the international division of his company. So before I knew it, every single month, he was flying for 2 weeks at a time, going to Macau, China, and going to Dubai, UAE, United Arab Emirates. And I got to go on some of the trips with him. I was in nursing school at the time. I went to DePaul University, and I have a master's of science in nursing. And when I had breaks at school, breaks during the school year on my school schedule, I would travel with him to wherever he was going. Now, his company originally asked us to move to Macau, and after being in Macau, I just said no because I didn't feel a connection to the place, and my husband was not going to have me move somewhere where I wasn't feeling it. I will say though, Hong Kong is one of my absolute favorite cities. I love Hong Kong, but I could not see myself living in Macau. Then his company asked us to move to Dubai. I had traveled with my husband twice to Dubai, and we spent quite a bit of time here. And I will say that the first time I came to Dubai and my feet hit the ground, I just felt this overwhelming sensation of being at home. I just connected with this land. And I also connected with the fact that there are people from all over the world here. Dubai attracts lots of people from everywhere to come and work. And growing up in Milford, I always felt like I was in this bubble, and no one left the bubble. No one talked about anything outside the bubble. Milford was just a bubble. And I just knew there was a whole world out there, and there was just no one out there. No one would talk about it. I actually was convinced that as a kid, that when I fell asleep, I woke up in my real life and I was a kid in a different country, and the life that I was living in Milford, Connecticut was the dream. I was convinced of that. Anyways, so we decided to move to Dubai. His company asked us. I think I said yes before he did. And when we moved out here, I actually found out I was 11 weeks pregnant. That was in January 2009, and we truly signed up for an adventure. And I have to say that there's this running joke in Dubai that you move here for 2 years, or when you come here, you say you're gonna stay for 2 years, and no one ever does. Everybody stays longer because it's just so wonderful, so easy to live here. And it's really hard if you are somebody that doesn't love cold weather like me. It's really hard to envision moving back to Connecticut or just somewhere, or Minnesota, and being in just all that snow and ice when you can just have sunshine 365 days a year. So in moving to Dubai, now we're here, I'm pregnant, and there's so many firsts going on. There's so much new things going on in our lives. And right away, I made a couple friends. I'm just one of those people where I connect with women really easily, very well, and I always seem to make new friends wherever I go. And so I had a couple girlfriends. I had this pregnancy. I was supposed to be working. I actually had gotten a promise of a job with Harvard University Medical Center. They were opening up a big hospital medical center out here, but unfortunately the project just went flat and fell through. So the job thing didn't happen. I wasn't going to work as a floor nurse. I was going to be on some sort of advisory committee. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But so now I didn't have a job, and I was pregnant. I had these new friends, and I just wanted to explore. I'm a big explorer. So that's what I did. And 9 months later, I had our daughter, and her name is Veronica, and she's now 13 years old. And then I entered this next new phase of living in Dubai, which is having a new baby. And there's actually so many women out here that do exactly what I did. So I ended up connecting through mommy groups, all these new women, these new friends that also had babies at the same time I did. And it was just so incredibly enriching. They were from all over the world. And I learned so much about so many different countries, which, to be honest, the education I had growing up, I only learned about American history or some form of American history every single year. And I didn't realize how much I didn't know. So it was really nice just to be able to connect with all of these people from all over the world and to share, having this new baby with these friends, and they had the same. So we had the same kind of mommy issues and questions going on, and it was a great time. So we still wanted to stay here. I had my son 2 years later. His name is Jack, and he's now 11. And we really enjoyed our life. I was lucky that I got to stay at home, and I was very, very lucky because it turned out my daughter had a severe speech disorder. It's called childhood apraxia of speech, and she could not speak. She was 2 years old, and luckily, because I had all these friends and we had babies at the same time, so they're growing up together, the other kids were saying things like yellow bus or shark or whatever, and my daughter couldn't even say the word no. So I found out through going to a clinic, a center, and she had this severe speech disorder. So she ended up going into a very intensive speech therapy program. And although I had a new baby who was quite colicky, at least I didn't have to work, so I could just focus on the kids. And I learned every single thing her speech therapist taught me. I just did everything I could. I felt like I became a speech therapist. And luckily, within 2.5 years, she was speaking at an age appropriate level. Thank God. So I had sort of this whole new baby phase. And then at the same time, my husband's just working. He's getting all these projects. He's really thriving in his career. We were able to start traveling because of where Dubai is located. There's just so many places that, growing up in Connecticut, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't think I'll ever get there in my life. And now these places are only just a few hours away. So we did lots of traveling when the kids were young. And then before I knew it, they were both in primary school. And during that time, I made a whole nother group of friends, and we became sort of the moms who party. And so during the day, it was my normal life, but in the evenings, sometimes we would go out, sometimes with the husband, sometimes without, and we would just go out and have these dinners and, just go to these clubs. And I would always wear the tight bandage dresses. They were in style then. And it was a whole nother chapter of my life. It felt like I'm a Scorpio, so I'm constantly being reborn. And I sort of entered my party girl, my party mom phase. And it was great until I felt like, something is really missing in my life. And that happened when I was 35 years old. And I just knew that I wasn't doing something I was meant to do. It was the same kind of feeling I had that I wasn't supposed to be living in Connecticut. I had that feeling, and I just knew that I had this hole in me. And that hole was really about having a career. And it was time for me to, leave the partying behind a little bit, because I still want to have some fun, but also to just really utilize my time in more creative, different ways that would give me a soulful satisfaction. So a friend of mine said to me, Lauren, you know everything about makeup and skincare. Start an Instagram account. So I did. And that Instagram account started to grow. It's still not huge, although today I have the blue check on Instagram. I'm verified. But I started just networking, and this whole new world opened up to me. All these new people, these new events, and just things I never knew existed. I grew up in a very sheltered environment, and growing up, my dad always said to me, you have to be an engineer when you're older. You have to be an engineer. You have to be an engineer. I didn't know I even had a choice. I just thought, I have to be an engineer. My dad said so. And my parents were very, very, very strict with me. I was always walking on eggshells as a child, and I always felt like my own personal worth was dependent on my latest report card. I felt like that's how I was treated in my family. So I never had the opportunity to explore. I always had my choices made for me. And I couldn't hide the fact that beauty had always been a passion of mine. And although the sciences I love, I'm very sciencey, and school always came very easily to me, my heart was just in beauty. So I created this beauty Instagram account, and I started networking like crazy. I was getting invited to all these amazing parties thrown by brands. I was getting gifted things all the time. I couldn't believe it. And at one particular party I went to, it was actually a dinner, and I didn't really want to go to it, but I said to myself, just go. You said yes. And one thing is I'm always true to my word. So I'd already RSVP'd, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. So I went to this dinner, and I happened to sit next to this woman who was currently working in the magazine media industry, and she was a digital editor for a very prestigious magazine. And so, I'm just sitting down chit-chatting with her like I do all the time. And I told her, we exchanged our information and whatnot, and she became, I guess you could say, like a contact, someone I had met before. Fast forward a couple years later, and I was at a party for Cosmopolitan magazine, which I was not affiliated with at the time. And she came out on stage and announced that she was actually the new editor-in-chief of Cosmo. And I thought, oh my gosh. So me being me, I went right up to her and I said, you know what, Millie, I should be working for you because I know so much about skincare and ingredients, and there's not enough content about it out there. Let me write for you. And she said, okay. And so I eventually wrote the first piece a few months later. We reconnected. And the piece I wrote landed in the top 10 of their most read pieces for, I think, that month. So Millie was very pleased, and she said to me, keep writing. So I just kept writing, and eventually I became the beauty editor. And during this time, my husband is still just plugging away at work, and his life, I will say, as a fire protection engineer, as an engineer consultant, his life just is not as glamorous as mine, but my husband's an introvert, so he's fine with that. And he, loves it when I take him out for these media dinners and whatnot. My life has absolutely calmed down since then. And well, I think it has. My mom would tell you differently. But while I'm not doing as much of the partying anymore, especially I don't drink alcohol anymore. I stopped drinking because I had raised my vibration so much. I just can't tolerate alcohol. I don't even like to look at it. But while I'm not in that phase anymore and I've retired the bandage dresses for now, I'm in this other exciting, this career explosion era of my life. And I just find that, every day it seems like something new happens, or I see just these golden little opportunities. And I think it's also just my outlook on life. I'm just naturally a positive person, and I'm someone who is very tenacious, but I just go for it. I go for everything. And I guess that's kind of why I moved to Dubai. I just wanted to go for it. And Dubai for me has been a wonderful experience. I have other videos on it if you're interested in, learning little bit more. Maybe you're thinking about moving abroad yourself. But while it's not the perfect country, I don't think any country is perfect, especially not the one I came from, although I do love the USA. At some point, I will move back because Dubai is not a forever place. But we're thinking now it will probably be when the kids are done with high school. So we'll have to see though, because life is full of surprises, ups and downs, highs and lows. So you never know. And that is one of the things about being living abroad, being an expat, is that life can be a little bit unpredictable. But for day-to-day life, I just find, and I know I keep saying this, but for me, the most enriching part is just having all these girlfriends from different countries. And my kids are in school. I remember one year in my daughter's class, there were 24 kids and 17 different nationalities. And I mean, she knew about countries that I didn't hear about until I was in my 30s. So for me, that was just, how incredible. And this video is by no means bragging about my life. I'm just sharing, my life with you, how things have turned out. I will say that I had an astrological chart reading recently. It was a gift from a friend of mine who actually was my son's first grade teacher. She and I just became good friends. And on that chart, when the astrologer was telling me about my planets, how they're positioned and what houses, it gets very kind of technical, and I don't understand the technical side of it, but there was a planet I have in a specific house, and she said that is the guarantee that you will live and work abroad. So I think that it was part of my soul's plan, my birth plan, and it was just always within me, and that's what I was feeling as a child, which I think is actually really cool. If you're interested in getting an astrological chart reading, I'll connect it down below, because it was a very interesting experience for me. So that's my story about how I moved to Dubai and what I'm doing here and how I feel about it. As you can see, I just love it. I really value it. I live in the moment. I do my best to live in the moment. And I have, a lot of issues. We all have stories. We all have, really terrible things that have happened to us. We all have highs and lows in life. And I, strive to be as transparent as possible, but living in Dubai has been an absolute high for me. Of course, I've had lows here, like finding out about my daughter's speech disorder and feeling very disempowered for a little bit, and other things that have come up along the way. But I think that's also just life. It's just, we all have it. Trust me, I'm the queen. So I'm the queen of having highs and lows. But anyways, that's why I'm here. And if you have any questions, I can always make follow-up videos. I am going to Oman next week. That's the country next to the United Arab Emirates. And I'm thinking about making a vlog while I'm there. So let me know if that's interesting to you, if that's something that interests you. And I am going off now to go get my nails done, actually. I know that people have said, well, you're so into your skin and your health. Why do you have these nail extensions? This is literally my last vice. And once these are gone, I feel like a very boring, pure person. But I won't have these forever. But for now, I just don't want to get rid of them quite yet. So that's my story. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a little bit more about me. And in the meantime, why not check out that video that went viral on YouTube? I still can't believe it. It's right here.